country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and I will be a blessing, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the people of the earth will be blessed through you. So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old, and when he set out for Haran, he took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran. And they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Morah at Shechem. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring I will give this land, to build an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he went on to the hills east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. Then Abram set out and continued toward Negev. Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. And as he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, I know that what a beautiful woman you are, and when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will let you live. Say you're my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you. When Abram came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that Sarai was a beautiful woman, and when the Pharaoh's officials saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken to his palace. He treated Abram well for her sake, and Abram acquired sheep, cattle, male and female donkeys, and female servants and camels. But the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife Sarai. So Pharaoh summoned Abram. What have you done to me? He asked. Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say that she's my sister? So I took her to be my wife. Now here's your wife. Take her and go. Then Pharaoh gave orders about Abram and his men and sent them on his way with his wife and everything that he had. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Jana, is that basket for the offering?
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, that's okay. We don't need to pass it right now. I was just asked to remind everybody that we didn't pass that, so on the way out, you might want to pass by there, if you would, please. Sorry, it's the last time I want to talk about money for you. Uh-oh. See, all that in the back is kind of blown away. You might have to change number hill if you want to record. Hope not.
At least they know what it looks like.
Okay. And then I want to ask Jerry a question here. Can you turn the air conditioner up a little bit more? It's getting a little steamy out here. I don't know. We got a nice breeze blowing, but I don't know if it's going to get any less humid. So, well, if you've been around the Methodist Church any length of time, you know that this is the time of year when a lot of ministers are on the move. It's just happens to be the end of the church year, the end of June, and the new church year starts July 1st, and so a lot of ministers are being moved around. And this is my last Sunday here at Church of the Cross. I'm sure that you're all well aware of that. And as I stand here today in front of you, I have, I guess you'd say I'm a train wreck of emotions. And I chose the text for today because I think it's a lot like Abram was when, you know, he'd been a faithful servant to God in the midst of great times and struggling times. And, you know, he thought everything was going fine. And then in the midst of chapter 12 of Genesis, the Lord says to leave. Leave your country, your people, your father's household, and go. Did he say where? No, he said just to leave. Well, at least I know where I'm going. I'm a little nervous about having to pack up and move, but I have a destination, and I'm glad that the DS didn't say, just pack up and be ready to move. Get your car and start driving. I'll tell you when you get here. I don't know if I like that too well or not, but Abram stepped out in faith to follow God. God promises great success. He will experience a lot of blessings for being faithful. Abram was 75 years old, pretty much, I guess, depending on who calculates the time. But around 75 years old, God led him into this new experience. Well, I'm 65, so he had a little bit of time on me, but I think the anxiety is still about the same. You're nervous, there's some worry, there's some concern. None of us know what the future is going to hold. We live minute by minute. At the time we try to plan what's going to happen an hour from now, something changes, or what's going to happen next week, or next month, or next year. So we just have to put it in God's hands and move forward. And anybody that's been in my office at any time except today or maybe yesterday knows that I have a lot of something in my office. Who knows what I have a lot of in my office? Well, more than one person said that, and my wife's probably like, books, because she's the one helping me pack and move all that stuff. There are a lot of books, and that requires a lot of packing, obviously, a lot of things to get boxed up and put away, and you got to remember, that doesn't include my home library. My home library is probably worse than what you saw in my office. But there's something else that has to be packed in the midst of this transition. It's really something you can't put in a box. And that is all the anxiety, the nervousness, the concern, the worry that you may have. You can't pack that stuff in a box and forget about it. I'm anxious about what I'm going to preach when I get there. But I was giving a lot of anxious thought about what am I going to preach today as I deliver my final message. So that anxiety doesn't end here. It'll continue on for the next few weeks as I get reestablished and trying to figure out what direction I'm going. And not only one church, I'm going to have two, and they're not like side to side, so I got to figure out all that transition. But in Genesis 12, Abram simply left and went as God told him to do. And as I said, he would have been a bit uneasy about those instructions. Because if I told all you folks right now to get up and go, well, some of you might just head home because you thought I didn't want to see you anymore or something. And some of you would stand around and say, well, where are we supposed to go? There would be a lot of confusion. And God simply says to leave and go to the land that I will show you. Now, I don't know how he chose what direction he went. I mean, how would you have any idea what direction to even go? I guess you get out of the wind. Okay, see which way the wind's blowing? Do you go that way? Do you go the other way? I don't know. I mean, how would Abraham figure that all out? But he simply left. Go to the land I will show you. And when he gets there, I always wonder, how's he going to know that he's there unless God said, this is it? And I'm sure he didn't just travel because they were traveling by foot or by camel or something. And if you ever rode a camel, you know that you don't want to ride a camel very long. It's the worst riding animal I've ever been on in my life. You get whiplash when you're riding a camel because of the way they walk. So you probably wouldn't want to ride for 12 hours or 14 hours. You probably make short little jaunts. I don't know how many stops they made to get wherever God was telling him to go. But God gave him a lot of encouragement. God says he would become a great nation. And he would be blessed. His name would be great, and that he would be a blessing. Now, I always felt Abram was blessed before that, but God says you're going to be blessed. He says, go where I tell you, you're going to be blessed. And I guess that's kind of a matter of perspective. You're going to be great. In whose eyes, right? I'm sure that Abram was not great in a lot of people's eyes, especially people that were following him. He said, pack up, we're gone. Where are we going? I don't know, but we're gone. Now, they probably didn't think he was too great of a leader if he didn't know where he was gone, but people followed him. I guess they didn't have a lot of choice. If you're in the desert and your leader's packing up and moving, you're probably better off to stay with the crowd. But he just says, follow me. So today we need to focus not on what is being lost, but we need to focus on what we are gaining in this transition. See, we all have a new beginning. We know that God promises to be with us and we follow his plan. The Church of the Cross will begin the journey next week just as an beginning this new journey. And Abram's journey was not without challenge. We know that he encountered things along the way that kind of slowed him down in his tracks. Church of the Cross will be facing challenges, change, and uncertainty. And Anita and I, I'm sure, are facing many challenges, a lot of change, and certainly a lot of uncertainty in where we're going and not knowing any people. Or I think we kind of know the area a little more than we did 3 days ago because we spent 2 days kind of running around and at least knowing what direction Walmart was and where the gas station was. And we found a good pizza shop. So I think we're pretty good to start. You know, we're not doing too bad. Like I said, we know where our destination is leading, but we don't know what the future brings for either Church of the Cross or to us. We know there are going to be changes. We know things will be different. And we trust God that they're all going to be good things. But God promises Abraham he would be blessed because of his obedience to God's call. And this journey that we're both on, Anita and I, and the Church of the Cross, these journeys are leading into the unknown. We certainly have a better idea of where we're going, as I said, than Abram did, because we both have a destination, you know, geographically or where the church's future is. We have to take that first step. And I would imagine that was a hard thing for Abram, leading just a handful of people, right? How many people? There were a lot of people he was leading, a lot more than are sitting here. And at some point he knew if he was going to lead them somewhere, he had to take a step. And that was probably the hardest step of his journey, because he really didn't know where he was going. So he took that first step knowing that he was going to be changing direction a lot during the next few years. There were going to be obstacles to overcome. But Abram kept his faith. He kept his focus so he could see the guidance of God guiding his path. And that's all God is asking of us, is to keep our focus. The willingness to take that first step. The Church of the Cross, Anita and I have been called to leave behind the familiar and step faithfully into the new and the unknown. We're called to step out in faith, to be blessed so that we can be a blessing to our communities. All that God requires of us is faith and willingness to take that step. When God calls, we need to go. Even if that means you leave behind something that you like, something that you're comfortable with, we have to make that step. If we're going to be faithful, I'm sure you can think back of many times in your life, some changes you've made that you weren't sure you wanted to take that first step. But then when you look back, what they always say about hindsight's always 20/20, right? You look back and think, wow, it is a whole lot better where I am today than where I was. I thought it was so great back there, but now look where we are. And I think we need to keep that kind of viewpoint out there. We need to look forward with anticipation and excitement. And I stand in front of a lot of familiar faces today. And it'll be my last time standing in front of you. Next week I'll be standing in front of a strange congregation. And I don't say that in an ironic way. It's a bunch of people that I don't know. I've met 2 or 3 of the folks as all I've met. And we will be standing there. I'll be looking at faces that don't know me and I don't know them. And I'm sure that several years down the road we're going to be a happy congregation. But it's just hard to stand and just not know what the future holds. And I'm sure a lot of you are thinking the same thing. There's some anxiety about the transition that's coming. But despite our fear, despite all the anxieties, all the uncertainty we're going to face, we recognize that God has called us on this journey. As I said, I don't know what the future holds. I'm a little anxious about that. When I got to the house and found a few things I did in the parsonage, I wasn't real happy about that. And you know, it's kind of hard when you move into a house and you find dog food laying around in the corners and fleas everywhere. And, you know, I'm not trying to put it down, but you talk about anxiety when you walk into a house and you think, this is my new home. And it's certainly not what we expected, but God's there. We'll get through this too. This too shall change, as they say. So we always wonder what's next. William Faulkner once wrote, the past is never dead. It's not even past, he says. And you and I have a past together. The new ministry you will have also has a past. All of us will have a future. And that is where we need to be looking. Because if you dwell on the past, we're afraid to take that forward step. God has a plan. Just as he did for Abraham. God will make you something great. You will be a blessing. And people will be blessed because of you. So I ask you to please look forward. Keep your focus on Jesus and believe. Jesus brings the resurrection power. Jesus said to many, many people, follow me. If you think about how many times in Scripture you see that, he didn't say, here's a map of where we're going. Here's all the things I'm going to ask of you. Now I want you to follow me. He simply said, follow me. And people stepped out in faith. And during this transition period, we need to focus on Jesus and his direction because Jesus is definitely calling for us to follow him. I will be praying for all of you during this period of transition. You're on the beginning of a new ministry journey, somewhere you've not been before. Name on the building may change, but you're still going to be the same group of loving people, caring people that you are today. Jesus' final words to his disciples in Acts chapter 1, verse 8, challenged them to remember what they had seen, then to go and tell everyone. And that is your calling. That is my calling. We are to go and tell the life-saving salvation of Jesus Christ. God brought me here, and we learned to work together, to love one another, and to continue to spread the good news. God promised Abraham that if he followed the path that lay ahead, there would be many blessings. When you continue to walk in obedience to God, be not dismayed. I end with the words of that great song that we're probably all familiar with. Be not dismayed, whate'er betide, God will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide, God will take care of you. No matter what may be the test, God will take care of you. Lean weary one upon his breast, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. God bless you.